Hey everybody, and welcome to this video where I wanted to talk about the Ubisoft Forward event that happened a couple of days ago now. Actually, I wanted to do a video yesterday, but I was a little bit busy. So this was on Sunday night, and it was in a similar vein to kind of a lot of the other video conferences we've seen. E3 is not a thing this year, so a lot of companies are doing their own kind of live but recorded take on these types of things, and that they've ranged wildly. I feel sorry for Xbox because I think they've got a lot of flack for their particular style, which some people have likened to a kind of a hostage scene, a hostage video or something like that. When I think because they came in earliest, a lot of the kind of since then, a lot of rules around lockdown in certain countries have been relaxed a lot more. So it's a little bit different now. But yeah, Ubisoft had, the kind of same sort of vibe, really, introducing different kind of segments which were pre-recorded, trailers and things like that. And I think probably what we're realizing is that while we all love the spectacle of E3, like, there is still the thrill, I guess, of watching these videos for the first time and kind of having them come through. As I said, I love the spectacle of E3. Some of the conferences just look fantastic and they're really cool, but we're there for the games, aren't we, really? And it's cool that we get to kind of still enjoy these announcements and stuff like that. Having said that, pretty much everything from Ubisoft's conference was leaked already, so I feel a little sorry for them. Whether it was leaked purposely or not, I don't know. What I mean by that is, like, I knew about this conference and I was going to watch it, but I had actually forgotten. Then the leaks for Far Cry 6 came and suddenly I was like, oh, I really need to watch this conference. I don't know if that was the same for a lot of people, where they were maybe like, oh yeah, I'll catch that, and then maybe leak after leak comes out and they're like, oh, actually, yeah, I should check this out to see what's going on here. Because in reality, they showed like 3 of their biggest IPs in Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Watchdogs. And they're all coming out within the space of about 4 to 6 months, really, which is kind of crazy, really. And it's not like they're 20-hour games. They're like all probably like open world 100-hour games, aren't they? Ubisoft have this real reputation for doing open world games. Everything they do seems to be open world, right? Even like what's it called? The Crew 2. It's open world. Apart from maybe like Rainbow Six Siege or the other game they showed, which is Brawlhalla. Pretty much everything, and Trials, I guess, but pretty much everything is open world for them, isn't it, really? It's where they've made a name for themselves. And over the years, they've done it very well. I would say that in certain ways, I love Ubisoft games. Like some of the Assassin's Creed games over the years have been my favourite. Far Cry I've loved as well since. I never really played the first one, I've got to be honest, but from the second one onwards I've played them all and really loved them. I've really enjoyed the last Ghost Recon Wildlands. Breakpoint I'm going to jump back into at some point. I didn't enjoy Watch Dogs 1, but I did enjoy Watch Dogs 2. I think I'll enjoy Watchdogs Legion, but we'll get into that in a minute. And Assassin's Creed I've loved since the first one. Not played every single one of them. There was that period between 2 and 3 where you got a lot of like I don't want to say spin-offs because they were their own game, they were their own right, but there was the non-numbered ones, and I didn't play most of those, I have to say. But I think I've played every single one since 3, which would be, 3 Black Flag, Rogue, God, I can't even name them all, there's so many of them. But, you know, right up until Odyssey, I've played them. So yeah, I guess let's jump into it and talk about the games. But actually, I'll just finish what I was saying, which would be good about the open worlds. They've made their names on open worlds. I like their open worlds. However, I have criticisms of them that there's too much stuff going on a lot of the time. There's too many distractions. Sometimes the worlds don't feel immersive enough because there's too much going on. But that's their style, you know. So to some people, they'll love the collectibles and the you know, you can't go 10 meters without someone doing a mission or something like that. I do prefer slightly more stripped back open world a little bit. I like to enjoy the world rather than put lots of stuff in the world to enjoy, you know. It's like, in a way that you find maybe with a Bethesda game or even something like GTA, you kind of have that, which is where, yeah, there's always things going on in the world, but it's because the world feels alive a little bit more than a Ubisoft game, which I think feels a little bit like they want you to just keep doing stuff all the time, so they put it really close together, and it doesn't feel like the world is actually as big as it actually is. You know, like the Odyssey and Origins worlds were absolutely huge, but because you'd only, like, and I kind of appreciate some people are going to be like, yeah, but I hate traveling, you know, miles on the back of a camel or whatever. But it gives you that sense of perspective, I think, sometimes, which you lack a little bit in a Ubisoft game. Anyway, I guess we'll talk about, I mean, I'll talk about the 3 main games I want to talk about. So Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Watchdogs. So I'll start and get through the other stuff first, which was an interesting looking battle royale game called Hyperscape, which I'll probably download and give a go, but I'll be completely honest. Well, I'll tell you the one thing I did like about it. I don't know if it's true, but from watching the trailer, I haven't actually watched any, watched the gameplay trailer, but I haven't watched anybody play on Twitch or anything. It looked like it was more set within a city, a town, and I do prefer that. Like, one of the things I've enjoyed about Warzone, in the brief time I had played it on PlayStation 4, was I liked the things in the cities and the buildings a lot more than, you know, say Fortnite or PUBG or anything like that, which is a bit more open. So it might have that going for it. It feels very Ready Player One, but they didn't want to buy the IP. Like, I'm not too convinced that it's going to be the next big thing. I do feel like battle royales are somewhat limited proposition. We have quite a saturated market already for them, and I'm not sure that people are willing to walk away from the time they've already invested in something like Fortnite or Warzone or PUBG or something like that. You know, when you think about skins and stuff like that, people kind of like that, I think. And when fundamentally the game is the same as other games, it's not really, you know, it comes down to kind of aesthetic choice. You know, as I said, I prefer the more kind of streets and buildings. Some people probably prefer the art style of Fortnite or kind of what it offers, that more kind of cartoony style. Some people might prefer the way PUBG looks. You know, some people might like the kind of realism of Warzone. I'm not sure you can really call it realism, but you know what I mean. The kind of modern weapons and things. So it kind of comes down to choice, I think, with battle royales. And I don't know if they're going to be able to move in and it'll be the next big thing, but we'll see. I'm assuming it's free. If it isn't, it's dead on arrival, because that battle royales are just, it's an expectation now that they're free, and then people buy a battle pass, whatever the hell it is. And I think it is free because I think you can download the open beta now. And I mean, if they don't do it free on launch, then you might as well just give up Ubisoft. What else did we have? We had Ghost Recon Breakpoint is getting AI teammates. Should have been in there from the start, Ubisoft. Now I've played a little bit Breakpoint. I do own it. It's not as bad as a lot of people make out because they have done a lot of adjustments to it. And whereas before it kind of had like leveled weapons, whereas Wildlands didn't. I actually prefer the Wildlands way of doing it, where it's not leveled weapons. It's a bit more realistic in that sense. I don't want the Division in Ghost Recon or do you know what I mean? I don't want to just play the Division, but it's Ghost Recon. I do want some difference there. So yeah. Division 2's getting some more stuff. Trials Rising's getting some more stuff. Just little kind of bits and bobs like that, I guess, which kind of came in. Some mobile gaming stuff. There's a Tom Clancy's Elite Squad, which, sorry, my phone is literally going off. How rude is that? An alarm I set. Yeah, Tom Clancy's Elite Squad, which, I mean, I feel really sorry for those kind of hardcore Splinter Cell fans out there, because Ubisoft are just basically trolling you at this point, aren't they, really, with that? Yeah, I mean, that's a mobile game, I think, Elite Squad, wasn't it? So, not too interested in mobile games, I've got to be honest. I've tried to play some mobile games, I just can't do it, to be honest with you. That's where I think the Switch comes in, where it's like, you can release mobile games on Switch, and I think it's quite good. They did that with the Elder Scrolls Blades, and it was actually pretty good. So, yeah, I'd like to see that. But anyway, on to the main games, I guess. I think the first one we had come up was Watchdogs Legion. I'm going to play the little video in the background. Sorry, I just realised I've played it. Not in a substantial way. We'll play the little video in the background, obviously sound off and stuff like that, but it looks really interesting. So obviously set in London. As usual, the accents and stuff are terrible. London looks good. The game looks nice. We've obviously had a Ubisoft game in London before, in terms of Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which is my favourite Assassin's Creed. I am biased in a bit of a way, because I guess because I'm English, I lived in London for 9 years, so seeing certain things is really cool. So I love London as a setting for things. I love England as a setting for things anyway. It always makes a difference, you know. Those of you who perhaps live in New York probably get this a lot, where so many films and games and stuff like that are set in New York that you probably get a real kick out of it. And I definitely do with games that are, you know, in London or the UK in general. I liked Watch Dogs 2. I didn't really like Watch Dogs 1. I just thought it was a little bit too... So I tell you, I thought Watch Dogs 1 was a little bit too gritty in a way for what you were doing. It lacked humour, which I like a dark, gritty game, but you do need a bit. You do need to lighten up if you're going to be playing the game for 60, 70 hours, you know. Number 2 definitely did have like more humour, but you don't want it to go too much in a kind of Saints Row style, in my opinion. I personally don't like Saints Row, so I didn't want to have that as a thing. I think Watch Dogs 2 did a pretty good job of that in a way. It was a little bit teenage culture-y in a way, I felt, for my personal taste, but I did still enjoy it, and it looked really nice as well. You could get like the HD upgrade, 4K upgrade for like PCs, and it looked really nice still. Might do a video on it at some point, just a wander around San Francisco. Yeah, Watch Dogs Legion looks good. Ubisoft games do look good as a whole, but they have a particular style. This definitely, you look at it and you go, it's a Ubisoft game. What's interesting about Legion is that you basically have lots of different characters, it seems, and you recruit them yourself, and they can die or whatever, and it's an interesting concept, which I applaud them for doing something different. I don't know how I feel about it yet, though, because I generally like, as I said, a bit more immersive type things, and playing one character is generally pretty good. But I also kind of like the idea of just having this ragtag like band of people that you take out, especially when one of them can be like an old granny who goes around tasering people and stuff. But yeah, when you're like bombing around Piccadilly Circus and stuff like that, I'm gonna love that. I really am. Yeah, and I like the different styles as well. So people bring different things to it. You kind of see in the trailer here that people are doing different things, but there's like lots of different, I don't know if you call them classes, but I guess in a way they are. You know, they showed off like different infiltration methods into places and stuff like that. And yeah, it looked really interesting, I think. I like the look of it. I think the story is going to require a massive like pinch of salt to kind of get you over a lot of it. You know, this idea of a private security firm taking over London because of all these terrorist attacks and stuff like that. And it's, you know, I mean, Watch Dogs was always a little bit you know, out there, I guess. The first one, I think they tried to keep it a bit more realistic. The second one went a little bit more offhand, and then this one probably even more so. But yeah, I like it so far. I like what I'm seeing. I think some people have played it. I found it a bit strange that some people apparently have played this, but not Assassin's Creed, because I think, no, sorry, some people, it's the other way around. So people haven't played this, but they've played Assassin's Creed, and Assassin's Creed comes out after this, which worries me a little bit, because this has also been delayed. It was supposed to come out earlier in the year and got delayed, which probably explains why Ubisoft have 3 big games coming out relatively close to each other. It's probably not an ideal thing for them, but you know, such is the way of things. But yeah, overall, I've been looking forward to this one a lot more than I did the second one, or even the first one. Actually, I saw the first one, and people know about the kind of infamous like downgrades they had to the game from when they first showed it graphically and things like that, which was a big disappointment. But I was still never that psyched for Watch Dogs, in a way. There's always something about it, I think, and the same with the second one. It didn't grab my imagination as much, but I quite like the look of this one. How it kind of looks, and the different styles and things like that. A lot of people criticise Ubisoft for the way they've handled Assassin's Creed, and saying like, "Oh, I don't like the new kind of version of Assassin's Creed. You know, it doesn't allow for stealth, or it's not, you know, the same game, and you know, they put all this action stuff in it." And I disagree, because all that stealth is still there, 100%. Most of the game you can stealth. I'd say 90% of the Odyssey or Origins you can stealth your way through. There are sections where you're forced to fight, absolutely. Don't think that's necessarily a terrible thing. There were sections in the other Assassin's Creed games where you were forced to fight. I get the whole, you have a target, you need to go and assassinate. There's different ways you can do that. That's kind of fun. I feel like Watch Dogs might be going in that direction a little bit with it. Different ways to do it, different people. There are certain things where it's like you need to take out this person or whatever and do stuff like that. So I wonder if they're trying to maybe blend the games a little bit more. In there, I do wonder. I think as well, like what people possibly anyway feel a little bit is that, and I felt it in Origins and Odyssey, is the story gets very diluted because of the overwhelming amount of content you have in the game. I've always felt like kind of in the earlier Assassin's Creed, they had open worlds, they had other stuff to do, side quests, etc. But you kind of could stick to the story and kind of go through it and stuff like that. And Odyssey especially makes you go out and do things like you have to take down these people to get these shards to then go back to this place, and it loses a little bit of the story. I think Origins I think was a bit better. Odyssey did, so I hope they don't do that with the next Assassin's Creed. Speaking of which, let's play Assassin's Creed and talk about that. So Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Viking based. You play a Viking. You can be male or female, and apparently you can change gender at any time. It looks spectacular. I will say it looks better than Watchdogs does, which is interesting. The lighting effects there are super cool. I don't know. Well, I mean, there seems to be a lot of really cool things you can do in this game. So they kind of went through a few things, different things. There's obviously all your kind of normal kind of gameplay. There's things like assaults. You have a village you can build up. You know, it does seem really cool. You can go on raids on different villages. You can assault castles. Yeah, seems really, really cool. I think this is one of the assaults here. You can kind of see. People have played this as well. I've watched some YouTubers and stuff like that talk about it. Things they've said about it is interesting. So they've said that, you know, they feel like the combat is much more difficult than it was in Odyssey or Origins. A lot less healing. Almost a bit more kind of Dark Soulsy, a lot more kind of parry and riposte. There's a lot more weapon combinations. You can dual wield any two weapons in the game, including shields. People have shown. You still have your little kind of actions and stuff like that, but it does seem like the combat has been beefed up a little bit. Now, I think some people have been worried about that because they want a more relaxed kind of thing. I'm sure there will still be a lot of you know, difficulty options for people to tone it down a little bit. This isn't Dark Souls. I'm 100% sure Ubisoft are not intending to make it that way, but maybe for those people who do want a bit more challenge in the combat, it is here, because I certainly felt sometimes in Odyssey you could sometimes button bash your way through a few fights, shall we say. Maybe that's not the case here, so looking forward to it. They got like a boss fight as well on there, looking at raiding, some player choice, open world exploration, longship gameplay, flighting. I don't know what flighting is. Fishing, meeting strangers, chasing a flying paper, environmental puzzles, mystic boss encounter, building a cairn, attending the wedding, consequence of choice, boss battles. It seems like there's a lot going on in the game. You still have like bows and axes and things like that. Yeah, obviously people will be saying like, what's happened to Assassin's Creed? Why is it not stealthy, etc. You know, Ubisoft at the end of the day, they did a lot of those Assassin's Creed games in that style. You know, right up until Syndicate, every single one of them was a very, very similar concept of you play an assassin, you know, you stealth your way into places, and you know, you assassinate someone. That was kind of it, you know. Syndicate, I think, did bring a few new bits in with the gangs and stuff like that, and you had your kind of base hideout, and it was a little bit different because for the first time you kind of had like NPC helpers. I think, I'm trying to think if in Unity you did. It might do in Unity. I can't quite remember. It's been a while since I played that. Let's look a bit more at the raid, or open world exploration. Yeah, let's go for that. But yeah, so I think you kind of you talking to a cat. What a handsome cat. Yeah, I feel like they did a lot of those Assassin's Creed games, and let's give them an opportunity maybe to do something a little bit different and, try it out. I think they will go back to the more Assassins thing. There's been rumors of this, Japanese Assassin's Creed for years, and like it would be a bit better of a one to do it if you were kind of playing as more of a ninja character. But also, let's not underestimate player choice. For all the one person that wants to play this game and be restricted to the stealth, there's probably 10 or 15 who want to have a choice to be like, okay, I can climb up these walls and do it, or I can bust in through the gates with my battering ram. And are Ubisoft really going to turn around and be like, well, we just want to cater to that one person? Or are they going to be like, we want to cater to the masses and give people choices? Do you become sometimes, master, or, jack of all trades, master of none? A little bit, yes. It does dilute it a little bit, I get it. But, they still make pretty good games. Like, if you have played Odyssey and Origin, they are good games at their core. I have faults with them. Odyssey in particular, I just feel it's just way too big, and there's just too much stuff going on. I know they want to give people value for money, but I would prefer to be able to do a story and then choose to do the extra stuff afterwards, rather than being forced to constantly upgrade my spear, find these people, do this stuff. It's just a very long, drawn out process. I would prefer to keep a tight kind of 15 to 20 hour story, and then have all these side quests as optional things you could maybe do afterwards on there, rather than try and pad out the story to be 60 hours long or something like that, which is what it feels like it is. And as a setting, I think it's really nice. It's going to be set again in England. One of the places in England it's set is East Anglia, which is where I live, so I'm very excited about that. Big Viking historical presence around East Anglia, and I'm really, really excited to kind of see that explored. And I think it looks incredible. Like, it looks incredible in my opinion. So really, really excited for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I feel like you've just got to take these games as they come. It's no good sitting there moaning about, well, it's not the same old Assassin's Creed. It isn't. This game is not going to be that. There's nothing you can do about it. The game's done, for all intents and purposes. You can choose to vote with your wallet and not pick up the game, or you can and try and enjoy the game as best you can. There's not really much anyone can do. If they decide creatively they want to move away from a certain thing, then they can do that. I don't think there's where are the other games similar to Assassin's Creed that have, if you want to cite, well, actually I think they would do really well, like from an economic point of view. Where are the Assassin's Creed clones that are doing so well right now, from the original type of games? There aren't that many of them out there, are there really? I think stealth is a wonderful thing in games, but I do feel that sometimes people, and I say people, there's always that 10% who are going to adore it, but I feel like the other 90% don't want to play a game that is 100% stealth for 40 hours or whatever. It just becomes very frustrating, and I think if people go back and they play some of those early Assassin's Creed games, the ones which they're pining for, I think they'll find that they have quite rose-tinted glasses on a lot of them. There was a lot of repetition in there. Sometimes the stories were brilliant. I liked it. I'm glad they've got rid of this like modern world aspect of it, though. I felt like they should have done that a long time ago. Origins was a little bit pointless in my opinion. Odyssey, I think they had a little bit at the beginning, but I don't think they have anything else. Certainly I haven't come across anything in the game. And hopefully they won't with Valhalla. I appreciate at the beginning it was a really unique kind of thing, but I think we can move on from there now in 2020. So other comments that Yeah, 40% complaining about it not being AC, 30% complaining about the gameplay, 40% complaining about stone stacking. Yeah, it looks more like Witcher than Assassin's Creed point. You should be changing there because stealth seems virtually gone at this point. I mean, I think that's the thing though. Like, you can have. I think people get too hung up on the name Assassin's Creed. Like, as I said, like, you can't make 20 games. I don't know how. Let me have a look at how many Assassin's Creed games there are. Let me look it up on my phone. How many Assassin's Creed games? How many? I don't think I'm going to get a simple answer here, am I? So hang on, we had Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Assassin's Creed Revelation, Assassin's Creed 3, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, Assassin's Creed Rogue, Assassin's Creed Unity, Assassin's Creed Syndicate. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We had 9 games which were stealth games on there. Some people might argue that Syndicate wasn't. So okay, call it 8. Call it 8 stealth games. And we're also not including remasters. We're not including you know, the spin-off games like the what was it like? Was it the Bloodlines ones as well? That kind of thing and all that kind of stuff. Basically, we're not including that. So we've had 8 Assassin's Creed games. We've had 3 if you want to count Syndicate. I'd say take Syndicate away, put it in the in-between stage. So I'd say we've had 2 games which are not stealth. So let them express themselves creatively. You know, if you're the head of, you know, Assassin's Creed Studio, do you want to be making your 9th, 10th game, whatever it is, of the same thing you've done over the last few years, tweaking things slightly every time? Or do you actually want to be like, I want to kind of do something a bit different and try out this different kind of genre and, you know, take this franchise in a different direction? You can always go back to it. Like, there's always that option. But if you just keep making the same game, I think this franchise would have died. I think if Origins had been the same thing, it would have died because people at that point were sick of it. I think Syndicate got a really... Unity and Syndicate are really good games in my opinion. And I feel like they got a lot of stick because... well, first they got a lot of stick because of bugs and stuff like that, which I totally get. I totally understand. But I think they got a lot of stick because they didn't evolve enough from the other games. And then what people are now saying is you're evolving too much. You can't win, essentially, with it. But I'm super excited for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I really like the look of it. I love that kind of Viking culture. I'm really interested to learn about it as well, in the same way I've learned about the Greek culture, you know, the Egyptian culture and stuff like that. They're really good at that type of thing as well. So I think it could be really cool. Next up, we have the I don't know which one to play. This one, I guess, Assassin's Creed world premiere trailer. So this was the one that leaked like a little bit before, and I think took everyone by surprise because it has not been that long since we had not only Far Cry 5 but New Dawn as well. I think New Dawn was about 18 months ago. I think it was like February 2019, wasn't it? It wasn't that long before then we had Far Cry 5 because they were kind of, well, New Dawn's a sequel without wanting to spoil things. So Far Cry 6, I think, was a bit of a surprise. I was certainly not expecting a Far Cry game this soon. It looks interesting. Obviously, Giancarlo Esposito, as what we assume is the villain, is really, really interesting. Far Cry, I think, has been one of those games where the strength of it has been on the main villain. You know, when you think back to... who was it in Far Cry 2? Was it the Jackal? Something like that, I think. And then 3, you had Vass. There was obviously the other guy. Oh, hang no, that was 3. Yeah, there was obviously the other guy's name I can't remember. Who you only cared about Vass though. Far Cry 4 was the oh, I can't remember what his name was now, but it was the weird guy. So let me look it up. Far Cry 4. It's going to bug me if I don't know. I keep wanting to say Elon Musk, but it's Elon Musk. So yeah, it's setting in Kirat, a fictional Himalayan county. You play AJ Gal, that's right. Pagan Min, that's the one. Pagan Min, yes. Very good villain, again, with that one. And then Far Cry 5 obviously had, what's his name? Joseph? It was the kind of the cult set in America. And I quite liked him. I thought he was probably the weakest villain we've had, to a certain extent. Yeah, Joseph Seed. So I'm really looking forward to this. It obviously looks incredible. Like, you would think that that's just a movie, not a video game. And yeah, it does look like it's in this kind of, we don't know what time era it's set in. They've always mostly been modern games, the Far Cry games, so I assume it is, but it has got a very kind of Cuban vibe to it. Some of the cars and things we've seen, some of the shots, the clothing, etc. It has a kind of very Cuban look to it. Apparently it's set on this kind of island. It has a capital city, so that'll be interesting, because I was thinking, and actually we hadn't really had that many cities in Far Cry before. It's mostly been the kind of the wild. You've had villages and towns and things, but this is supposedly a capital city. You can see in the background cranes and things like that. So I wonder how that's going to kind of play into things with them. So yeah, it looks really, really interesting. Very excited to kind of learn more about this. See the cars there have this kind of like 60s American look, which is, Cuba has that kind of style. But yeah, he's a fantastic actor, and I'm sure he's going to completely blow things out of the water, basically. What's interesting is the kid, the son there, is people have been speculating that it's a young Vass. It looks a lot like a young Vass, and also has the same kind of scar on the eyebrow. That would be super interesting if it was that kind of prequel to it. And would also kind of explain, because his father seems a little bit unhinged, might explain why Vass became pretty much unhinged as well. So I think there's Far Cry. It's coming out in February next year. Supposedly, you know, when does anything come out on the date they say at the minute? But I think it looks really interesting. I've been a big fan of Far Cry, as I've said. I really liked the previous one, Far Cry 5. I really liked the setting. It was beautiful, stunning. I loved the wingsuit and stuff like that flying around. I like the companions you get as well. I know there is them in Far Cry 6 as well. I liked New Dawn. I thought that was a really clever thing to do. I like the bright colours of it as well. You might recognise that I like bright colours quite a lot. So I really enjoyed that as well. And the gunplay in Far Cry is just really solid. I think it feels really good. It's just a good, fun game. It's crazy things happen. It's kind of over the top. It always has these over-the-top villains, you know. I felt that might have been the slight problem with the last one, was he wasn't as over-the-top. Sometimes the Far Cry villains are quite likeable in a weird way. So I think with Vass, you kind of liked him, even though you never really hated the villains. Like Pagan Min, I never hated him. I kind of thought, obviously, you know, he's mental and he's a psychopath, but there's that quite endearing charm to him. I don't think Joseph Seed had that charm. I think, hopefully, that Anton Castillo, which is Giancarlo Esposito's character, will have that charm to him as well. Not just be I felt Joseph Seed was a little bit bland, to be honest, with that. So hopefully that will help, because I feel like Far Cry games are all about their villains. They're all about the crazy gunplays, taking over checkpoints, climbing up radio towers. They're things we love, though. They are things we love. Crazy animals coming to try and kill you all the time, like bears and things like that. Lions, tigers in Far Cry 3, wasn't it, I think? So yeah, I'm really looking forward to jumping in and playing that. I think Ubisoft, they're a company who, for a long time, they absolutely were batting it out of the park. Like, they really were. They had this, like, in my opinion anyway, this string of just release after release. I think the last couple of games they've done, you've started to see, Breakpoint, and to a certain extent Odyssey, although I think Odyssey is a great game, but I think we've started to see a little bit of shine come off them, like, almost in a way of like they got a little bit ahead of their own hype. And Breakpoint especially was, when it first released, pretty terrible. So I'm looking forward to jumping back in with AI teammates, seeing how that changes things. I might do a little video on it. But yeah, hopefully this will be a return to form. Vintage kind of Ubisoft games. There's rarely a Ubisoft game that comes out and is perfect, but they always have this overarching, like, thing that just makes you keep coming back to them. I think they do it very well. I do think they're one of the best kind of studios out there for, like, it's going to sound weird, but for innovation. And that sounds weird because we're on to like our 14th Assassin's Creed game. I don't mean innovation in terms of IP. I mean innovation in terms of the way they do change their games as they go through. They do add things into them. They are kind of evolving the games. Watchdogs is a prime choice. I'll be fascinated to see how Legion stacks up to the original Watchdogs, just 3 games in. Valhalla is obviously completely different to the original Assassin's Creed. I'd say Far Cry has stayed fairly similar, but it is a bit different. Sorry. So yeah, I think they're an interesting company, definitely. I follow them with a real interest. They make some other interesting games as well. If you've never tried like Anon 1800, I think that's a really fantastic game. I love the Trials games personally as well. I think they're really, really good. They've just done Trackmania, which I know a lot of people are liking. That's free. The Crew 2 was another one where I think they had a real flop on their hands. But maybe they're bringing it back. Maybe 2020, 2021 is the year Ubisoft get back on that perch as one of the best game studios out there, just releasing real quality. We'll have to wait and see. I certainly hope so, because I have a lot of time for Watchdogs, Assassin's Creed and Far Cry franchises. I've had many amazing hours in those franchises, and I hope I'll have more going forward. But yeah, that's my little look at the Ubisoft Forward event. Till next time, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.